fifth grade, here's your second math lesson for the week. We're going to be doing Module 7, Lesson 2, Assessing the Reasonableness of Fractions, Sums, and Differences. Now remember that when they talk about sum, this is addition, differences is subtraction. So you're going to be able to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators using a common denominator, and then assess the reasonableness, see if your answer is reasonable. So Jamie is building a bird feeder. He connects two metal rods together to make a stand. The blueprint for the project shows the lengths of the rods. What is the total lengths of the rods? So we can see that we have 1/6 of a yard for one of them and 2/3 of a yard for the other piece that are going to be connected together. So our expression would be 1/6 plus 2/3. Now, we need to first find a common denominator for the fractions in the expression. So remember, finding a common denominator means we need to find what do these two numbers have in common. Well, I'm looking at these two numbers and I'm seeing that I could multiply my 3 times a 2 to get a 6. So the common denominator for this would be 6. So now to find equivalent fractions, we're going to have, we've got our 1/6, we don't have to do anything to that one. And then our 2/3, we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2, which would give us 4/6. So now we can add this together. 1/6 plus 4/6 equals 5/6, and it's going to be 5/6 yards long. And we know our answer is reasonable because if we look at the original problem, 1/6 is closer to 0, and 2/3 is kind of closer to 1. So this is 0 plus 1 would be 1 whole yard, and 5/6, is almost a yard. So that's how we know our answer is reasonable, because 5/6 is almost 1 whole. So we're taking what we did in the last module, Module 6, and what we just did in the last lesson, Lesson 2, and we're kind of putting them together. Jamie fastens the bottom of the bird feeder to the pole. He has 4 boards that are each 5/6 foot long. How much must Jamie cut from each board to make each side of the feeder 3/4 foot long? So each of the bird feeders are 5/6 foot, or each of the boards are 5/6 foot long. He wants them to be 3/4 foot long. So we're going to have to subtract 5/6 minus 3/4. So you write an expression using fractions with a common denominator to model the problem. What could we have? What do 6 and 4 have in common? If we were to write out the factors for 6 and the factors for 4, what would be a number that they have in common? Well, I know that 12 is something that they both have in common. So 5/6 times 2/2 is going to give me 10/12. And then 3/4 times 3/3 gives me 9/12. So I'm going to have 10/12 minus 9/12, and that equals 1/12. So 1/12 foot is what he's going to have to cut from the board to make it fit. And we know our answer is reasonable because 10/12 is just a little bit bigger, right? So 5/6 is almost a whole. 3/4 is almost a whole, so that would be closer to 0, and 1/12 is closer to 0. So 5/6 close to 1. 3/4 is close to 1. So then when you minus 1 you would have 0. Which is 1/12 would be close to 0. It's just a little bit that he's got to cut off. A little bit he's got to shave off of the end. Okay, number 1. on our check for understanding. Jamie starts with 7/8 ounce of glue. After a project, 1/4 ounce of glue is left. Write an expression that can be used to find how much glue Jamie uses. Solve the problem. Show that your answer is reasonable. So he starts out with 7/8 of an ounce of glue. After the project is done, 1/4 is left. So we're subtracting, right? Because we need to figure out how much he used. So this is what he started with. This is what he has left. So if I subtract those two, it'll give me what he used. So what do these two have in common? Well, this is easy enough, an 8, right? So we're going to keep our 7/8, and our 1/4 will multiply by 2/2, which gives me 2/8. So 7/8 minus 2/8 equals 5/8. And it's reasonable because 7/8 is almost 1. And 2/8 is almost 1/2. So when you subtract those, you would get, and this is almost 1/2. It's just a little bit bigger than 1/2. Okay, number 2. 2/3 minus 1/5. So we need to find a common denominator for 2/3 and 1/5. I'm just going to focus this again, make sure that's as good as it's going to get. These two don't have anything super low in common, but if I multiply the opposite by each fraction by the opposite denominator, then we're going to find our common denominator. So 2/3 times 5/5 is going to be 10/15. And then 1/5 times 3/3 is going to be 3/15. So 10/15 minus 3/15 equals 7/15. 1/6 and 3/4. And we already determined 6 and 4 have a 12 in common, right? So 1/6 times 2/2 equals 2/12. 3/4 times 3/3 equals 9/12. So we have 2/12 plus 9/12 equals 11/12. All right. So remember, the on your own section you can do independently, or you can and then pause, do independently, and then come back and check your answers, or you can do it right along with me. Oops, sorry. So we have Kyle, and he's stringing a necklace with beads. He puts black beads on 5/8 of the string and white beads on 1/4 of the string. Kyle thinks he will cover 6/12 of the string with beads. Is Kyle's claim reasonable? Well, let's see. So we've got 8s, 4ths, and 12ths. So let's get these all with a kind of a similar denominator. So, we just need to know if his claim is reasonable. I'm sorry. So 5/8 black beads, white beads 1/4. So if I change my 1/4 to 8s, I would have 5/8 plus 2/8, which is 7/8. 7/8 is almost 1 whole. 6/12 is exactly half. So is his claim reasonable? No. Because 7/8 is almost 1 whole, and he's thinking he's only going to cover 6/12, which is exactly 1/2. So his claim is not reasonable. Precipitation can be in the form of rain, snow, sleet, or hail. In Sarasota, Florida, it rains about 2/3 an inch on May 22nd and about 5/12 an inch on May 25th. What expression represents the difference in the amount of rainfall for the 2 days? So we would have 2/3, the difference, right, means subtract, minus 5/12. So now we need to find a common denominator. Well, I can change my 2/3 to twelfths. So 2/3 times 4/4 equals 8/12. So 8/12 minus 5/12 is 3/12 of an inch of rain inch of rain difference. Write an expression using fractions with a common denominator, then find the sum or difference. So we've got 8ths and 6ths. What do 8ths and 6ths have in common? Well, if I were to write out my 8ths and write out my 6ths, I would get 24. So 3/8 times 3/3 equals 9/24. So I'm going to have 9/24 plus 1/6 times 4/4 equals 4/24. So 9/24 plus 4/24 is 13/24. My fourths and my twelfths, well, I can change my 3/4 to twelfths. So 3/4 times 3/3 equals 9/12. 9/12 minus 7/12 equals 2/12. 6ths and 9ths. Let's see, they have an 18 in common. So 1/6 times 3/3 equals 3/18. And 3/9 times 2/2 equals 6/18 equals 9/18, which is the same as 1/2. 7/9 minus 1/3. Well, let's find 1/3 can be 9s, right? So we can multiply 3/3. Equals 3/9. So 7/9 minus 3/9 equals 4/9. Mr. Singh's laptop memory is 9/10 full. After he deletes some files, the memory is 3/5 full. What fraction represents the part of the laptop memory that he deletes? So we're going to need to first figure out is how are we going to find out how much he deletes. So we can regroup our 3/5 into tenths. 2/2, which equals 6/10. So 9/10 minus 6/10 equals 3/10. So the part that he deleted is 3/10. And we're going to skip the reasonable. We got lots more to do. Okay, number 11. Tracy checks the digital tablets made at a factory. In one box of the tablets, she finds that 1/20 have a cracked screen. In the same box, she finds that another 1/5 have the wrong software. What fraction of the tablets in the box have either a cracked screen or the wrong software? So this one is an addition problem because we need to find out how many total tablets are defective, basically, right? How many total tablets are not usable. So this would be 1/5 plus 1/20. So we can get our fifths to 20ths by multiplying by 4/4, which would give us 4/20. So 4/20 plus 1/20 equals 5/20 have the wrong software. On Tuesday, the dance team spends 1/8 of the practice time trying on uniforms and 1/6 of the time choosing music. They spend the remaining time dancing. What fraction of practice time do they spend dancing? We're not going to explain because we're going to do our work up here. So we know that they spent 1/8 trying on uniforms and 1/6 choosing music. So this is how much wasted time that was not actually spent dancing. So if we find a common denominator, I could use the number 24. So 1/8 times 3/3 equals 3/24 plus 1/6 times 4/4 equals 4/24. 24ths, which equals 7 24ths. That's how much time they wasted. Now, the total time they had was 24 24ths, right? That's our total. That's our whole. So if we subtract that from 7 24ths, that will give us how much dancing time they did. So 24 24ths minus 7 24ths equals 17 24ths is how much time they spent dancing. Okay, find the sum or the difference. 2/5 minus 1/10. We're going to find an equivalent fraction. We're going to have tenths at the bottom in our denominator. So we have 4/10. 4/10 minus 1/10 equals 3/10. Number 14, we're going to find an equivalent fraction with our 3/4. We're going to multiply that by 2 halves. So that would be 6/8. 6/8 minus 1/8 equals 5/8. 1/3 plus 5/12. Well, 1/3 equivalent fraction we will multiply by 4/4, which is 4/12. So 4/12 plus 5/12 equals 9/12. 1/16 plus 3/4. We're going to find an equivalent fraction with our 3/4. 3/4 times 4/4 equals 12/16. So we have 1/16 plus 12/16 equals 13/16. And then number 17, Malcolm completes 1/5 of his new video game. After 1 week, he completes another 1/10 of the game. After 2 weeks, he completes another 1/2 of the game. How much of the game does he complete? So we have 1/5 plus 1/10 plus 1/2, right? We're going to add all those up together. So the common denominator that I can see from them all is to use tenths. So 1/5 times 2/2 is 2/10. And then 1/2 times 5/5 equals 5/10. So we have 2/10 plus 1/10 plus 5/10 equals 8/10 is how much of the game that he has completed. So now I want you to do 7.2 independently. I want you to complete the whole thing, front and back, and return it to me at school. All right, this is your last lesson for this week, and then we'll have some more next week. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.